ever since the Fast and Furious came out, I always wanted a Mark IV Supra, and I always wanted a Japanese market Mark IV Supra. So when we started to be able to import the 1993 cars into America, I assumed I'd be able to afford one. I kept saving, I kept building project cars and selling them, and I was just always, it seemed like $5,000 or $10,000 short of what the market was for a imported Mark IV Supra. So, being a software engineer, it's 2024, I got together all the information I could, and I imported my own Mark IV Supra from the auction floor in Japan all the way to here in the US, picking it up with a rented U-Haul. I did every single step, and I've documented every single step. I'm gonna make a video of it. I'm gonna upload each step with every piece of paperwork you'll need to my website, and you can use this video and my website as a reference anytime you wanna import a car from Japan. And that process is made up of really 7 steps. So we'll go through each step one at a time. I'll talk through what you need to be doing, what you need to be thinking out, what you need to be filling out, and how you can do it. So let's get started. All right, so the first step is doing your research. That is step 1. So I'll stick this up here as kind of a reminder. This is the exhaust I haven't had time to put on the Supra. Figured this might be as well, a decent use for it. So you're really gonna be looking at 2 things when you're doing your initial research for this. One is the car and the market around it, so you can understand what you're gonna need to spend to import it. And 2 is gonna be the people you're going to need. So basically your buyer and your exporter, those are usually the same people. And in my case, I use Japan Car Direct. They were awesome, I can't say enough good things. And we're gonna move forward with the assumption that you're buying a car from auction and you're gonna use Japan Car Direct. There are also dealerships you can buy from, and a lot of them have experience in selling cars to the United States and exporting cars, but I can't speak to all those, and there are a lot of scam dealerships. So if you're gonna buy from a dealership, be really careful. I have no experience with those whatsoever. And the other person you're gonna wanna look into is the importer. The importer is who you're gonna be using to get the car basically off of the boat and into the United States. The 2 things you're really gonna wanna think about when you're looking at buyers and importers, like buyers, exporters, and importers, the buyer and exporter are usually the same thing, are gonna be how available are they? When I went to an importer to the United States, they didn't supply me with any real good contact info, just their email. And I will list out on the website who I used for importers. There's a couple of different companies. I used a company called Great World. They were fine, they were good. When it came time to really, get down to business and get the car in, I had to call them to get them, engaged. But other than that, it was a pretty smooth experience. And that was the first thing I asked. They just gave me an email and I asked for a phone number. So make sure for everybody you work with, you can get a hold of them, when they're in their office, via phone, via email, that kind of thing. And also their experience. Have they done this before? You don't want to be somebody's first when it comes to exporting a car or importing a car. So those are the real things to just ask quick questions around, make sure they know what they're doing. And when it comes to the car market, there's a couple of things to think about. One is how much do these things sell for at auctions? So you can get access to the auction site. I'll list that on the website. That has all the different auction houses in Japan, and you can watch. For example, I was looking at Mark IV Supras, so the JZ A80 chassis Supra, and I was watching how much do these really go for between, you typically don't see a grade 1, which is the lowest grade, and a grade 5, the highest grade. And I'll teach you how to read auction sheets. There'll be a helper up on the website as well. But in between those, if you're typically seeing like a grade 2 or a grade 3, what are those selling for? What do they typically have wrong with it? What's going on the auction sheet that you can see would get it that grade? And then when it comes to a grade 4, which is what this car was, which is more of the nicer cars you're gonna see, especially for something that's 30 years old, what's going on with it? What is it selling for? And then you're gonna wanna look at the US market and look at what's here. So for example, right now, really big is Silvias. People are looking at the S14s, S15s for imports and comparing them to the US prices. Are they worth buying? You really have to look at, I joined a bunch of Facebook marketplace groups because that's what people do now is Facebook groups. It used to be forums when I was younger. And I was looking at what are people selling their Supras for, and I was looking at, using Craigslist and just Facebook Marketplace around, what are Mark IV Supras going for, and I was comparing kind of what it would cost between purchasing there, and then you're also gonna have to look at the cost to ship this car, the cost to store this car while it's in Japan, and I'll have a full cost breakdown spreadsheet on my website that you can use to see basically what you pay for a car. I'm going to use an example of an R34 Skyline that's $100,000. So you'll see along the way what it's going to cost you. But step one is doing that research. So that way you'll have a good feel of what you're going to pay for the car, what the car is really going to, sell for over here when you get it here, if it's in good shape. And the people who, are going to help you get the car here. You're really going to want somebody focused because there can be snafus along the way and you want somebody really, really helpful on your side. So step two in the process is going to be actually bidding. Now that you know who you're going to use, again, I'm going to go under the assumption you're going to use Japan Car Direct. They were awesome. That's who I used. I'm not sponsored or anything. They just happen to do a really great job by me. I'm going to assume that's who you're going with. So once you found cars that have interested you, you have the money you need together to not only buy the car, but get it here and get it out of port, you're gonna start thinking about bidding and you're gonna be watching these auctions that come across. I checked every day. It seems like they're loaded about twice a week, kind of new ones will come up and get loaded in and slated for auction. And what you'll do is you'll reach out to your contact at Japan Car Direct. I had Taylor, awesome individual. And he will pull up the sheet. So the auction sheet's gonna be in Japanese, and he'll record a video on his computer of him going over the auction sheet, what it says, why it says, what grade it is, whether it's, for example, mine has a small dent on the door about the size of a ping pong ball. That happened to bring it down to a grade 4. He'll also go through every pictures, kind of highlight things that he notices, the individual notices, and really cover what's going on with that car. You'll have an option to have it basically a third-party inspector come through. It's about 6,000 yen, which was about $30. They'll take 6 pictures for you, and they will basically walk around the car, take whatever pictures you request. They can't really get underneath it, but they can get kind of all angles of the car and just do a quick once over to make sure that the auction sheet really matches what you're looking for. And when you're ready to bid, what you're gonna do is you're gonna provide Japan Car Direct with 8% of your max bid, right? So in the example of our R34 Skyline, what you're gonna give them is about $8,000. You're gonna wire that to them. You can also use PayPal, but there are some pretty big fees there. So they'll give you all the information to do a bank wire, and they have a bank, you can wire it to Japan, or they have a US side bank that you can wire straight to. So that's what I did. I wired the 8% of the cost of the Supra, and then they go in bidding for you. And that stuff happens really fast. It's all computer automated now. So they'll set your max bid basically in their computer. They have like a login, and they're actually like a registered person at this auction house. And they will basically go in for you with that max bid, and it will automatically start bidding up and up and up. And you might not have to pay that max bid. I offered to spend $5,000 more than I was actually going to on the Supra. I think I got a pretty good deal considering what I got when I got over here. I was really happy with that. But that's what you're gonna need to know about bidding. You might not win your first car, you might not win your second car, but when you're ready to go, you need to make sure you have at least that 8% in with Japan Car Direct. You've gotten any individual inspections done before the day comes. You probably have 1 or 2 days to get somebody out there to take a look at it and get a really good idea of what you're gonna get if you win. And that was bidding through and through. It's not much more complicated than that. It's kind of anticlimactic. If you're on the East Coast like I am, it happens in the middle of the night. I think mine I won about 2:30 in the morning, but they have a bunch of stuff going through, so you'll never know exactly when it's coming through, but you'll get an email with either, you won it at this amount, and here we go, we got to get this thing to you, or you'll get an email that says, better luck next time, it's a little bit over your max bid. Nothing happens with that 8% money. They hold on to it, they'll use it. If you win the car, it's going to go towards the total price of the car, or if you lose the car, you'll use it on your next car that you bid on. So that's bidding. All right, so the next part up is winning, right? So you get this email, the car is yours, now you gotta figure out, all right, what am I gonna do here? So, stick this up here. When you win, you're gonna have to provide 48 hours, you're gonna have to wire the rest of the money that Japan Car Direct is asking from you. They'll give you basically a rundown. You'll get a bill of sale with just the cost of the car, but you're gonna need to pay some initial fees. You're gonna need to pay an auction house fee, an inland transport fee, Japan Car Direct's fee, their overall fee up to a certain point, and I don't think you'd have to hit this. It's a pretty big amount of money. If you're buying like a $250,000 car, you'd probably hit their cap, but it's 4% of the price of the car. So in the case of your $100,000 GTR, it's going to cost you an additional $4,000. So 4% of the total price of the car is what Japan Car Direct is going to charge you for their fee. And the basic fees to get the car out of the auction house and to wherever it's going to go. There also might be some other fees at that time that are kind of minor. They might want to wash the car. Sometimes they do that before they get it on the boat, things like that. But at this point, they're just going to get it on a tow truck and get it, kind of out and away. It might sit at the auction house. Mine sat for, I think, about a week before they were able to get it out. So depending on how many cars have sold, it may take a little bit of time to get everything out and going, but they will. At that time, they'll also be requesting the money for the row. So roll on, roll off is how you ship a car, and we'll talk about that in a second. But they're going to request that amount, which is it changes car to car. It's going to change weight-wise, I believe. The Supra was about $2,200. The lowest fee I've seen, I've inquired about doing a key truck, and they basically have a bottom cap at about $1,400 to ship a car. So they're going to expect the 4% price of the car, the 4% fee on the car, the total price of the car, any of the fees in between, and the row shipping. That's going to be when you win. All that's going to be due in 48 hours. Again, a wire transfer is how you're going to do it. I'll get a cheat sheet up on the website. It's not too bad to do. It's the scary part, right? You take a lump sum, in this case, your GTR, 100 grand, and you're wiring it out into the ether. You're not going to see it again. But I have to say, Japan Car Direct, awesome. They were super great. They were able to let me know right when they got the money. It's not quite instantaneous. It's pretty close. It's within a day or so that the money got there. And they were super awesome about everything. Now, remember that importer we were talking about kind of in the first part? You're going to want to let them know as soon as you win. You can actually let them know if you want ahead of time when you're thinking about bidding, but I let my importer know, hey, I won. I know we talked briefly. I won. Here's what I'm paying for the car. Here's the information on the car. We're going to need to start getting the ball rolling soon because we're going to need to get this car on a boat. And that's pretty much everything you need to know about when you actually, win the car. So at this point, now that you've won, you need to start thinking about exporting and shipping. So whoever your exporter is, which if you're using Japan Car Direct, they will handle all of this for you, which is part of what makes them awesome. That 4% fee you pay, to me, was worth every single penny. They're gonna start looking at getting your car booked on a row ship. So roll on, roll off basically means your car has to be in good enough shape to literally drive onto a boat with a bunch of other cars, and that's how they ship cars all over the world. It's super common. There are a lot of ports that do it. There's a lot of ports out of Japan. There's also ports all over the world that your boat will probably stop at on the way to you. So your exporter is going to work mainly on getting an export certificate set up, which will come in handy when it comes time to register and kind of as you're getting it into the car into the country. But as soon as they get a car booked, they're gonna get you what's called a draft bill of lading, which a bill of lading basically says, I have something going on a boat. I am lading something, I am shipping something. So the bill of lading is basically a document that says, hey, I've got an item on a boat, and the US is gonna wanna know about it. So that's why you need to get it. Along with your commercial invoice. So think of like a bill of sale with a car. That's exactly what a commercial invoice is going to be. So when you get your draft bill of lading and your commercial invoice together, which means your car has been booked on a row boat, that's usually right when that happens, you're gonna provide that to your importer. And the reason why you're going to provide that to your importer is because they need to file what's called an ISF 10+2 form. Everybody just refers to it as an ISF, which is basically a declaration that your car is coming into the United States. So your importer, again, the importers aren't that expensive. I think it was a couple $100 to get my importer, and again, worth every penny because they know how to handle this stuff. They're going to put together all this paperwork for you. So as soon as you get your bill of lading, provide that to your importer and they'll draw up your ISF to file for you. If you file your ISF late, before your car goes on that boat is when the ISF needs to go in. If you file it late, you can be penalized up to $10,000 by the United States. So you have to be careful with that one. This was kind of hard for me because Japan Car Direct, for some reason, could not get me my draft bill of lading until the car was on the boat. I don't know why. I don't know exactly how that process works internally between my exporter and the boat that they booked me on, but they said this happens to them all the time, and they ship thousands of cars per year, and they've never had anybody fined, so just, they told me to chill out when I was worried about it. And they were right. I didn't get fined. We got everything on the boat. Everything worked out. But that's what you're gonna be doing, is you're gonna be turning your draft bill of lading and your commercial invoice into an ISF form to get your car into the United States. And I will have all of those forms, examples of those forms, up on my website. A couple of things to note here. Your car may take a while. I think my car sat for about 6 weeks, which isn't too bad. It's usually between 1 and 2 months, but it could sit for 3 or 4 depending on how busy the ports are, or if they need to get enough cars together to make a Ro-Ro stop worth it. Your car may sit for a little while before it gets onto a Ro-Ro boat and booked out to be shipped out. And that's pretty much it for exporting and shipping. That's why you pay the guys at Japan Car Direct or an exporter. They're awesome. They'll get all the paperwork hooked up for you and get you that bill of lading, the export certificate, which they will overnight you, basically DHL to you when the car is getting close to you when it's been shipped out. And now you get to do the fun part, which is sit there and track your boat every single day once it's on there for literally 6 to 8 weeks until it gets to you. It depends on where you are, where the boat's going, where it's stopping. But I used a marine traffic app, which was awesome. And I literally watched my car as it left Japan and was shipped. I watched it come over Hawaii, through the Panama Canal, bounce around on the southern United States, and then get up to the Port of New York, where my personal car was delivered, which is ironically in Newark, New Jersey. But yeah, you track it every day. It should be at sea, maybe 6 to 8 weeks to get to you if you're on the East Coast like I was. Obviously, it's going to change depending on where you are in the United States. So at this point, bought your car, you've got it on a boat, you've exported it from Japan, you've gone through the export process. So what's up next? The import process. So importing a car, which is where the majority of the rest of the fun paperwork comes in. You're gonna do a couple of things, and this is also a little bit scary too. The first thing you're gonna need to do is give your importer a power of attorney. Again, make sure it's from a recommended place that has a lot of experience. I used Great World, like I said, they were awesome, but I had to provide a picture of my license, picture of my social security card, and assign a power of attorney to these folks to file my paperwork for me, which when you think about it, makes sense, right? They have to act as you and file as you. So that was kind of the weird thing, was giving them power of attorney in order to file the paperwork for me. So the next thing you're gonna need to do is purchase a customs bond. So your car needs to come in through customs, right? And customs, they're gonna want their money. They're gonna say, you have to pay me, this is coming into the United States and you're going through customs, you're bringing goods in. So you can get a customs bond and it's $3 for every $1,000 you spend. So if you're buying like a key truck or something a little bit lower end, it might make sense to just buy per $1,000 that you're spending. In the case of a Supra or your $100,000 GTR, you can just pay a flat rate bond of $275, and that's good for a year. If you're importing 3 or 4 or 5 cars, you're planning to turn this into a business model, that's what you're gonna wanna do. So the next thing you're gonna need to do is get and pay for that customs bond. Your importer will help you file that once you've given them the power of attorney and you tell them how much you're spending. Now, the next 2 forms are definitely the ones that everybody talks about, which are the EPA and DOT forms. So your car has to be older than 25 years old to come into the United States without any super special treatment. And you have to let the DOT know it's coming, and you have to let the EPA know it's coming, and you have to say, hey, this car was manufactured in this year and is, with your rules, has permission to come into the United States. So you're gonna fill out those forms. I will have a cheat sheet for both of those forms with both of those blank forms up on my website to fill out, but you're gonna need both of those, and your importer will hold on to them, and you'll bring them with you when you go to pick up the car. And remember, we just talked about the draft bill of lading and getting your vehicle on the boat. At this point, you'll actually get a bill of lading issued to it once it's been on the boat and you're going through this paperwork. At that point, you'll definitely get a bill of lading issued. So keep track of that bill of lading reference number just in case you need it. You'll have a copy of your bill of lading, but you're gonna wanna make sure you get that copy from the importer. I had to ask for it, and I wanted to make sure other folks did the same thing. Ask for it, get a copy of that bill of lading, have it on hand so you have a copy of every single piece of paperwork that you're doing. 2 really important things to note is, 1, if you're gonna go into the port and get the car yourself like I did, you're gonna need a TWIC card. So there is basically a pre-check type thing you go through to make sure you're not a felon or a terrorist, and that allows you to go onto ports. Most people get it when they're going to work on a port, but it's like $50 at your local Staples, and you can go and get a TWIC card and get pre-approved. And it also, it gets you TSA pre-check, which is kind of a cool random thing that comes with it. And the second thing is when your bill of lading is issued and that your exporter helped do that, they set up your draft bill of lading and it gets finalized when the car's on the boat, make sure that it is electronically or telex surrendered. Otherwise, you would have to be there as the car was coming off the boat. So when you get your bill of lading set up, make sure it is electronically surrendered. And I'll have notes on all of that stuff up on the website just as part of the cheat sheet so you know what you need to do. And now that all your import paperwork is done, you're literally just waiting for the boat to arrive and you're waiting for your arrival notice. So all your import paperwork is done, your car has finally gotten to the United States, and you think you're done, but you're not. So you need your car to get released and you need to go receive it. You need to go get it from wherever it is. So when you get your arrival notice, your importer will let you know. It's forwarded to your importer. They're basically, when you set up that bill of lading, they're gonna be, when it's electronically surrendered like we talked about, they're gonna ask to be notified as stuff is coming through about what you have lading. So what happens is they'll get the notification of the arrival notice and they will email you. You'll also get a notification as well, because that's set up by the exporter when they go to do all of that export work. And the company, in my case, it was Norton Lilly. It's whatever company is technically handling your cargo, your RoRo, will say, hey, you're gonna come into this port in the next couple of days. You need to pay us and you need to come get your car. So when that arrival notice is in, you need to pay the company that gave you the arrival notice. They pay you to have processed your cargo. So I think my fee was like $50, but I almost wasn't able to get my car because they at the very bottom of the arrival notice was like, here's how you pay us. And it was in small letters and you have to also call them and remind them because even though I had paid Norton Lilly, they never let the yard that they were offloading the car into know that they were paid. So they were gonna hold this cargo for them because those two weren't talking, which was super frustrating. So pay whoever gave you the arrival notice and also make sure that they contact, once your car is on the ground in the port, you contact those folks and make sure that everything is cleared between the two of them. At this point, your importer will also reach out to you and you're gonna have to pay for your duty, which is 2.5%. So if you're buying this $100,000 GTR, it'll be $2,500. And any other fees along with filing that EPA paperwork, the DOT paperwork, it's like $20 per form. Again, all of that stuff will be in the spreadsheet on my website, just to let you know kind of how much you're gonna be spending. But once you've done all of that, you also have to pay the yard that your car is at. You'll get about a week before they start charging you for storage. I think it's exactly 1 business week from your car hits the grounds to come here and get it. So being from the Northeast, Baltimore or Newport News, Virginia is usually as far north as they come with RoRos. And that's once you've gotten your importer paid and you paid whoever handled your cargo and you've paid the yard and they've all talked to each other, you have to call everybody, make sure everything's ready to be released to you. You have your car now released. Now you have to go receive it. Receiving the car, I rented a U-Haul. I ended up renting a 15-foot truck because I had 2 friends come with me and help me, and that was the only 3-seater, plus their like car dolly, which was not dolly, but the full trailer, the car trailer. And it was awesome. Their car trailer was great. The truck was great. I got maximum insurance on everything. That whole thing was relatively pricey. It was over, I think, $1,000 all said and done round trip. But then you road trip, right? You hop in the car, bring some common sense things with you. Bring a jump pack, bring a tire inflator, bring some basic tools, bring a lot of boards if your car, the Supra had drop springs in it, wasn't super low, but it was not easy to get on the car trailer. We had to use a bunch of boards. We had to use boards while it was on the trailer, while we were strapping it down. So that was a whole thing. When you go to the yard to pick all of this up, so you've road tripped down, you go to say Baltimore, you're gonna either need an Escort or a TWIC card, which I mentioned. You can't just drive onto a port. And in my case, Port of Newark was a little bit different because they don't typically handle RoRo. So I was able to go in, everybody was able to go in with me, but arrive super early the day you want to get in. If you're going to the Port of Newark, it was awful. Port America was awful. Arrive 2 hours early. You need to bring a high-vis vest and expect to wait for a long time and bring every piece of paperwork you've done so far with you. Bring a copy of every piece of paperwork. You want your original export certificate, the English translation of your export certificate, which is like that bill of sale we talked about. You want your arrival notice, your bill of lading. You want all of it. Bring it all with you. Also, print out the confirmation that you paid your cargo handler, in my case, Norton Lilly, and bring the confirmation that you have paid the yard. In my case, people were waiting for hours because they didn't bring a printed confirmation that they paid the actual yard where the car was sitting in the United States. So that was a really stressful process. It was very emotional. I remember I have a video the first time my friend took it of me driving the car up out of the yard. Took us forever to find it, but we waited in line to go get it. I handed in my paperwork. They took all of my paperwork, picked out what they needed, and then I was able to go out and get the car. And yard to yard, that's going to change a little bit. It depends on what step of the process you're in. Mine was a little bit different, like I mentioned, because of Baltimore. But just bring, like I said, bring one copy of everything with you and you should be fine. And then go out and get your car. Drove it up, loaded it onto the trailer, strapped it down, and drove it back home. And when I say drove it back home, I actually mean trailered it back home, right? You have it on the trailer, all strapped down, everything ready to go. And yeah, I just remember that was the most exciting part, being everything out of the yard, all your paperwork is done. The United States says, you can have your car for now. You don't have a title or anything yet, but you have it released to you. Super exciting. All right, so we've got our car basically in the United States, officially on US soil. You've towed it home, and you've got your 7th and final step, and that is titling and registering the vehicle. So that's gonna differ state to state. I'm gonna talk through it how I did it here in New Hampshire, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. So this point it was awesome. I was super excited. We had gotten the car down off the trailer. I was admittedly like emotional, excited. The car, towed it all the way home. It was a 8-hour drive with traffic, nightmare. You finally got the car safe. It's at your house or at a local shop that you trust, somewhere like that. And now you've got to go register and title this thing. So what my local government here in New Hampshire needed to do a title and registration was an export certificate. So that was what the exporter got ready from Japan. It's in Japanese. In step 4, you need that original copy, which they'll overnight a bunch of the original paperwork for you. So you'll need the export certificate, the English translation of it, which is certified. Again, you have to have this original copy of it that they'll send to you from Japan. They'll need the export summary, which you'll get when you get your car out of the yard. They'll give you an export summary saying this car was legally exported. So it's okay to have here in the United States. You'll want your DOT form. I don't think I ended up needing the EPA form, but I brought it with me. It's a good idea just to bring a copy of everything. And that was pretty much all of the forms that I needed. I did, highlight, it's a good thing to highlight like the gross vehicle weight, just kind of like have this on hand. They'll want the mileage. So, the kilometers that are listed, you'll want to convert that to mileage and have it, written down with you. Things like that will help speed it along. Here in New Hampshire, you don't need to go to a DMV. Like I went up to Concord and they told me, don't come here. I went right to my local town hall and they were able to take care of it. And that was it. I walked out I had applied for some vanity plates. I walked out with plates. I walked out with a registration, and the title came in about 4 weeks. And again, I'll have all of this information, all of this paperwork, everything up on my website. You'll have everything you use this video along my website and import a car from Japan. It's everything I learned. I've documented everything along the way. I've been through, I think, 300 emails just back and forth between different folks that I did research, or actually my exporter, my importer, everybody, in order to do this process and document it so everybody has everything that they need. And that's it. I mean, that's how I did it. That's how I got a Mark IV Supra. I spent $15,000 less than what I was going to spend here in the United States. I was looking at automatic NA Supras for 10 grand more than I bought this car for, that had been wrecked and poorly repaired. You could see how the body lines were off, things like that. And that car sold almost immediately. I was talking to the guy and it sold within a week or two. And that's when I kind of decided that I needed to do this. But please use this guide. Please like this video. Please send it to your friends. If you want to export a car from Japan and import it into the US, this is how you do it. Reach out, ask any questions under the video. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you have any comments. Let me know if I missed anything. I can always throw it in the notes on the website. I can put a note on the video. And thanks, guys. Thank you for the support. As always, thank you for watching. Tune in next time as we work on the Supra. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and a subscribe. It would really help me out.